Hello, welcome back to our next series on securing Microsoft 365 with multi-factor authentication. If you have not seen or go through the first video on this series, which is on our cybersecurity series, I would want you to check this channel where you will see the series, and then I will also do well to also drop the link somewhere on this screen or on the comment section where you can actually watch the first video to have a very good understanding of what exactly we are talking about. So in this video we are going to cover a lesser known method for enabling MFA in Microsoft 365, which is often referred to as Legacy MFA. So although Legacy MFA has largely been replaced by a newer method, it still has a unique advantage that uses especially for organization that needs some kind of a straightforward MFA solution. So let's briefly look into this Legacy MFA and then why some organizations are still using it and what you should know before enabling this MFA. So today I have this agenda. So the first one on the list is what is Legacy MFA. So we are going to take a look at Legacy MFA, how it works and why it was one of the first MFA solution in Microsoft 365. So we are going to take a look at the pros of the Legacy MFA, and then also take a look at the cons and limitation and some of the potential drawback. So we are going to also mention some really insights concerning this Legacy MFA that has actually go unnoticed and people don't really talk about it, and we are going to go through the practical session of enabling Legacy MFA. So let me go to the next slide. So what is Legacy MFA? So let's start with the basis so that you can have a very good understanding of this discussion in general. So Legacy MFA refers to the original multi-factor authentication system that Microsoft implemented for Microsoft 365. So unlike the newer version like conditional access, Legacy MFA was actually designed primarily to be straightforward and is a kind of out of the box protection. So it's accessible through Microsoft 365 portal, and you can apply it on a user level basis, which means that the admin can enable it individually for specific users. So Legacy MFA is not as flexible as the newer method, which is the conditional access, which we'll talk about in the next series, but it actually provides an essential layer of security, especially for organization that don't need complex security policy. Next slide. So what are the pros of Legacy MFA? What makes Legacy MFA appealing? So let's look at some of the benefits. Number one I have here is its simplicity, right? So very simple. Legacy MFA is easy to configure and does not require any additional setting, although you can do some additional settings. It does not require any condition, maybe a special licensing. So it is ideal for organization looking for a quick way to enforce MFA without needing any security team or any experts to come and do any modification or any update. So the next one I have here is per user flexibility, which I have mentioned earlier. You can decide to enable it individually. So unlike security defaults that we mentioned in our earlier video, which apply organization wide, Legacy MFA can be enabled for individual users. This is particularly useful for teams that are wanting to secure only specific accounts, maybe the admin account or the executive or accounts, or just leave some set of accounts blank without any policy, which peradventure you are accepting the risk anyways. So the next one I have on my list is no additional cost. I think I mentioned this earlier. Legacy MFA is actually included and bundled with most or virtually all Microsoft 365 tenant or licenses, so it means you won't need to upgrade or pay for any advanced configuration, unlike conditional access that would need a level of licensing like P1, so which we'll talk that later in our next video, so I don't want to dive into that right now. So typically you don't really need any additional license or pay any additional fee to get it done. So another advantage of Legacy MFA is override with app password. So well, this can be an advantage, but it can also be a disadvantage somehow. But let's just look at it from the point of advantage part of it, and as the pros as we have it here. So it actually gives you a unique feature that allow you to create what we call app password for non-browser applications that does not really support MFA. So this is a kind of workaround for older apps or devices that can prompt you for MFA, and you've already set up MFA for that account that they are using, but since they don't understand MFA, they can't prompt you for MFA. So you can just create an app password and then use it. So it's actually helpful for it's a useful option for company that's, or maybe some other services that are still using legacy software, or they have some kind of unique authentication requirement. So that would actually solve that problem for them. So my next slide. So here we have the cons and limitation with Legacy MFA. So while Legacy MFA actually has its uses, it is also important for us to know that it has some limitations, and I have actually listed some of them here. So the first one I have on my list is basic non-customizable settings. So you cannot really customize much. So unlike conditional access that gives you some level of configuration, so Legacy MFA does not offer anything like maybe location-based policy, risk-based authentication, or device compliance options. So this really makes it less effective for organizations that needs specific security measure in place. So that is one thing. So the next one I have here is limited reporting and monitoring. Yeah, Legacy MFA actually lack advanced logging and monitoring capability, which are actually essential for organization that needs detailed insight into authentication events, right? So the next one I have on my list is app password pose a security risk. So I have mentioned it earlier. So if we can regard it as an advantage or maybe a disadvantage, as the case may be, because while app password are convenient, they can also pose a security risk, since this password bypasses MFA in code, so they effectively reduce security if they are not managed very well. So this is one reason why many organizations are actually moving away from legacy authentication in favor of a more modern solution. So the last one I have on my list here is it is gradually phasing out. Yeah, it is gradually phasing out. So Microsoft is actively pushing organization to migrate to conditional access, which is more secure and adaptable. And it's time legacy MFA will eventually be retired, so it is not the best choice for a long time security planning. So you should have that at the back of your mind if you want to go with legacy method of MFA. So I'm going to my next slide. So on my next slide I have some rarely mentioned insights, right? So before we actually conclude some of this discussion, there are some important things that I think we don't really talk about when we mention legacy MFA. So legacy MFA is actually has its historical context behind it, because legacy MFA was one of the first MFA options, and it actually laid foundation for some more complex things that we have now, the so-called conditional access that we really have today. So while it is basic, right, it's a proven option that many smaller businesses can still rely on for certain amount of baseline security, so to say. So the next one I have here is, I said, minimal impact on user experience. Yeah, because since legacy MFA can be applied on per user basis and it doesn't enforce organization wide like security default, it can be rolled out gradually in phase without causing major disruption, so it's actually ideal for teams that really want to pilot tests MFA without really affecting every user or just pushing every user into it at once, just like what security default would do. Okay, so next on my slide is practical. So we're going to go through the practical briefly, but before I go into that, so here is the steps that we need to take. So we go to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, then we go to users section, we select active users, and then we click on the enable multi-factor authentication from the top menu and follow the on-screen instruction and all that. There is another way to also enable it, which is from the Entra ID. Maybe I would just quickly go through the two method really. but I actually prefer the Entra ID method because the interface look a bit more matured. So I'm going to launch or open my tenant right now, and then I'm going to walk you through the steps. Okay, so I have my tenant open right now, so I'm going to walk us through the steps. So I log on as the global administrator. So from the steps I shared earlier, so we go to users, active users, and here we have the multi-factor authentication menu. So I click on it. It would open for me on a new tab here. So here is just putting up some of this documentation, but you might not see some of this information on your old tenant. But if you see it, you just click here, the Legacy MFA, then it will open the Legacy MFA portal. So here it is. So this is where you can enable MFA. So if you like to do it from here, so you can just select the user you would like to enable. Remember, I mentioned earlier that we can do it on per user basis, and which is one of the things why it is unique in its own self. You select the user and you click on enable. So remember, I mentioned that I prefer the second way of activating it, which is from Entra ID. That looks a bit more mature to me, so I'm going to Entra ID right now. So I would show you some other settings from Entra ID, which the settings are also available here, but let's just focus on what I have on Entra ID. So here are some other settings that you can perform here. So I would mention this setting on Entra ID because it just look more mature. Typically the options or maybe the settings are the same things, but I prefer this Entra ID version of it. So the same way, you go to identity and users, all users. So when I select all users, then I would have my menu here. You can see it, per user MFA. So when I click on per user MFA, it will take me to the page. So you can see it looks a bit more mature than the other interface. So the same way, you can also look for a user you want to enable. Just all you need is just select the user and then click on enable MFA. So I think some of the user here, I have it enforced for Alice Weber. So for Deborah Baker, you can see it's still disabled. So if I enable it, so it will enable the MFA. So next time the user is attempting to sign in, it will ask the user to set up the MFA, which is the mobile phone for second level of authentication. So these some of the settings we have here. You can actually fine tune some of these settings to kind of tighten security or make things a bit more convenient for your users. So under these settings, you can see if you want to disable a password, maybe you consider it very unsafe, you can disable it for the user. And again, you can also add some IP addresses. Maybe you have on your environment, maybe anytime users are actually accessing the tenants from your own environment. Maybe they are in your office, so you can actually exempt your IP address such that user don't get the MFA prompt whenever they are on your environment, they are connected to your IP address. So these are some of the available methods that user can use for second level of authentication. So we have a call to phone, text message to phone, notification through app mobile, verification code from phone, or add token. Typically based on some best practices, these two methods are no longer viable because the bad actor can actually clone a call. They can actually also clone text messages. So it might be advisable to disable these two, but it all depends on your environment and some of the policies that you have. So but it's just the best practice to disable these two since they are no longer safe. And another option that I think might be useful for you here is maybe you can enable MFA to be remembered on a particular device for a certain number of days. This also poses its own security risk, but it's still better for more conveniences and more usability for your user, such that maybe every now and then they log on to their environment or to their Microsoft 365 tenants, they see prompting for MFA verification. It can be annoying, so you can actually maybe make it 14 days or 7 days, or you can disable it, depending on your environment and the kind of level of security you want to put in place. Security and convenience, they are two parallel lines. So as you put in more security, we end up taking away some of the conveniences, but depending on how much trade-off that can be made just to ensure that our environments are secure. So that is up to you. So once you're done with all your settings, you can click on save, and these settings would be applied to that user. So you can see Deborah is showing enabled, and if we try to sign in to Deborah's account right now, we would be required to set up an MFA. So, but there's one thing I just think I should mention. Some of the users here, we have enforced, some we have enabled. So the enforce simply means that the user has set up the MFA and he has actually complete the MFA enrollment. That is what it simply means. But on the other hand, I can also select a user and say enforce MFA. So what that would do is this. Okay, let me start from the enable MFA. So if this user wants to log in like this, let's say Deborah Berger wants to log in, he would see a prompt that your organization has enabled 2 factors and all that, but the user can still skip it because I did not enforce it from here. But if it is on enforce, the user would be forced to take the MFA challenge and set up the device like immediately. So that is some subtle differences in all these things. So just a summary once again: once you see this enforced status, it simply means that the user has already set up the MFA and the enrollment has been completed and every other thing is set up and good. But for a user that you enable from this portal like Deborah, the way we have it here, it will initiate the MFA process, but it will not force the user to enroll into MFA. So what it will do essentially is that it will prompt the user to enroll for the MFA, but the user can still click on skip. So I think the user can keep skipping it maybe for about 14 days or so, and then the user would eventually be enforced to enroll into MFA. So that's just some of the basic differences in that. So, and then one thing that I think we should also mention, maybe you have a user, maybe the user has enrolled for MFA, maybe for some reasons, maybe the phone was stolen, or the user misplaced the phone, or the user actually changed the phone. So there is no way we can transfer the MFA from one phone to another phone. So what you need to do is to actually trigger a new registration for the user, and a better practice is to also remove the old device from the portal. So for example, let me say I don't think I have any user that has been properly enrolled, but let me show you what you need to do. You can just select the user, and then from the menu you scroll down, you will see authentication method. So you click on authentication method, and from here you will see these two menu here. So require re-registration. This would force the user to re-register on the next time they are logging on, and this is also necessary to revoke previous multi-factor authentication session, which means you need to deactivate the older devices. So if I have the profile set up for Allen, I would rather see some of the phone number and some of the information here, and sometimes you might also need to click on this menu here to see some full menu that would show you some a very good details that would show the name of the device the user is using, and current or the default mode of notification that the user is currently using. Maybe it's a phone or a phone notification or what have you. So you would see that on this menu. So if I click here again, it will take me back to the previous menu on where it will just show the phone number. But the most important thing you need to do here is just to require registration and then revoke the previous session. So when the user is logging in the next time, the user will be required to actually set up a new MFA on their new device, as the case may be. So I think that would be the conclusion of our practical. So let me go back to my slide. So I'm back to my slide here once again. Conclusion and what's next. So here is a question: is Legacy MFA the right choice for your organization? It is best suited for smaller organizations that need simple per user MFA setup. It is easy to configure, includes a password for legacy application, and it is low cost. So I think we have discussed most of these points. However, if your organization require robust security policies, monitoring, and custom condition, then conditional access is likely to be the best route for you. Yep. Next slide. So thank you for joining me today, and I really appreciate the time you have taken to join me. So in our next video, we'll take a closer look at conditional access. So I would be showing you how you can build a phishing proof conditional access policy in Microsoft 365, and we'll create some settings that would ensure that you have a good settings, because conditional access actually gives you some greater control, and we are going to see that. So if you want me to send you the slide, or you want to be part of our community to get notified whenever we have a live classes, so you can use the link that I will be putting on the description session. So you can just submit your email, and you can state the reason why you submit the email, and we'll look into it and then act accordingly. So be sure to hit the like and subscribe, and also turn on the notification bell. Stay tuned for the next part of this series, where we will take a look at conditional access. And it's also good to subscribe so that you can encourage us to keep bringing out a good knowledge sharing, and others can also see it and benefit from this knowledge sharing session. Don't be selfish. Share with your friends, share with your colleagues, share with everyone that needs to get knowledge and build up themselves in Office 365. See you in the next video. Bye bye.